What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Pokemon guide video. Today we're covering a Pokemon that, honestly, this guide has given me a lot of trouble, to be completely honest with you. So, yeah, just want to say that this is a very, very complex Pokemon, and I think that I've given it a really good shot at kind of breaking down some potential ways of using it, but there's so many ways of using this Pokemon, so I don't think I covered all of them. So just keep that in mind when we're going forward. Once again, please remember to like this video. That would help me a lot. And also subscribe if you haven't. I'm releasing new teams every 5,000 subscribers, so going to be releasing my current one with Beat Up Lucario, or Beat Up Whimsicott, Justified Lucario, and then Choice Band Arctivish at 80,000, which is coming up somewhat soon. And then, again, at 100,000 subscribers, I will be doing Pokemon Academy, where, for free, I open a Discord server, get a bunch of top talent involved, and teach anyone who wants to learn about how to play Pokemon competitively at a very high level. So, yeah, if you're interested in any of that, please like and subscribe, because that helps me out a lot. And now let's jump into the Pokemon. So, Grimmsnarl is a Pokemon that is getting a lot of hype for good reason. First of all, amazing shiny design. Second of all, the typing is really cool. It's Dark and Fairy type, which is unique to this line. It hasn't been seen before, and it's really interesting typing. It also has a couple good abilities. It has 3 good abilities of different status. I personally love Frisk. Frisk is really useful in double battles. Less useful in single battles, but still useful. But Frisk immediately tells you half of the Pokemon that they brought to the battle's items, which is really, really valuable. There's also Prankster, which is an incredible ability. And although it's been weakened somewhat over the years, it hasn't really been weakened that significantly. And when you see kind of the move pool that Grimmsnarl has, you'll understand why I think this thing is so threatening. So, Pickpocket is also cool. You probably don't have room for it on a set like this, but if you were to run a Focus Sash set, it could be cool, but probably not. Lastly, next we'll go over the stats. So I know the speed stat is cut off. Sorry, I'm gonna try and do some of this live. I need to switch it back and forth. But here's the stats. Oh, the other reason why I had trouble making this guide is that currently the VGC rules for 2020 are not out yet. So I was torn because I wanted to make this guide, but I also didn't want to give bad information. So basically, because the rules aren't out yet, we don't know for sure or for certain whether or not Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is allowed, and that changes everything with this Pokemon. Its Gigantamax form being allowed changes actually everything. You might think that I'm exaggerating, but it's a big deal. It's a really big deal with this Pokemon. So I'm gonna talk both with and without. I'm gonna do this guide as if Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is not allowed, and then if it is, we'll get to that at the end. So let's take a look at the stats. So cool type, let's recap what we have so far. Very cool typing, unique, very good offensively. Fairy is a great typing, and Dark is interesting as well. And then stats, you start off with pretty strong. Very good base HP, very good base attack, low base defense, special attack, pretty low, relatively low special defense, and a really slow speed stat. So you have this Pokemon that it's not really clear what direction it wants to go in, right? On the one hand, decent HP, pretty good HP, good attack, bad defenses, and it's really slow. It's just not clear exactly how you're meant to go about using this thing, right? Which is, I think, another reason why I had trouble. So let's go over the moves, because this is the part where I really got tripped up. So it gets a signature move called Spirit Break. It's a 75 base power Fairy type move that doesn't miss, and it always lowers the target's special attack stat. So in my guides, you'll see that I've used Play Rough most of the time, but you can replace Play Rough with Spirit Break. It also gets False Surrender, which is kind of like Feint Attack if Feint Attack was good. It never misses. 80 base power move. Pretty solid. Bulk Up and Power Up Punch to boost its stats. Fake Out. It gets Fake Out. I will say that Fake Out is a little bit weaker this time around than it was in past years. And by a little bit, I mean significantly weaker than it was in past years, but it's probably still going to be a good move. In addition to that, it gets Fake Tears. Very good support move. Swagger. Oops, not what I wanted. Swag. I don't have my deodorant. I wear Swagger deodorant, but I don't have it. Swagger, which can be used both offensively and defensively, or both to harass your opponent and to boost your own Pokemon. You have potential there, though that's not that great because the accuracy is bad. Sucker Punch is a strong priority Dark type attack. Torment, not really that good. Nasty Plot opens up the potential for a special attacking set. I personally don't think you run that most of the time, but yeah. And it also gets Fighting type coverage moves. So if you were worried about not being able to hit Steel type Pokemon, you get Hammer Arm, you get Fire Punch, you get Ice and Thunder Punch as well for certain Pokemon like Corviknight. You can run Thunder Punch or Fire Punch for. Thunder Wave, Light Screen, and Reflect. Keep those in mind. Rest if you want to Prankster heal yourself back to 100%. Protect is needed. Fake Tears we already talked about. Power Swap, meaning you can stop a Pokemon that's setting up and Sweeping with Power Swap by switching your boosts. Wonder Room to remove all items. Low Kick, very good fighting type attack. Body Slam, potential for paralysis. Leech Life, solid attack. Crunch, good dark type attack. Like False Surrender, but better. Taunt, Trick, Superpower. Power Whip, don't ask me why, I don't know. Darkest Lariat, don't ask me why, I don't know. And that's it. So, you can probably tell this thing has a lot going on, to say the least. So let's jump into the sets. This is probably going to be a longer one. I've gone ahead and talked about some sets that I think are potentially interesting here. There's a lot you could do with this Pokemon, and again, this is a really hard guide for me to make just because there's so much going on with Grimmsnarl in particular that it's really hard to know what's right and what's not right? And it's hard to know, like, this is a Pokemon that you can be so customized depending on the team. So, this Grimmsnarl is kind of just what I think of as, like, standard. You capitalize on its good HP and its very good attack stat, and you use it both as a support with Fake Out and Thunder Wave, and also as an attacker with Play Rough and Sucker Punch. So, this Grimmsnarl is here that it's a supportive Pokemon, but you can't ignore it, or else you'll take too much damage from its powerful attacks. Thunder Wave, great support move, although it can miss now, can't wait for that to happen. Fake Out, great support move, worse because of Dynamax, but if they're not Dynamaxing, it's better, and at least Psychic Terrain is gone. Play Rough and Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch, Z Sucker Punch, lower special defense. This is a set that I feel like I saw some of this in VGC tournament, like sample VGC teams, or somewhere around the VGC scene. I'm not entirely sure where, nor am I sure of, like, if it was exactly this, but dual screens, basically. Like, you basically can use Grimmsnarl as a dual screener with Thunder Wave that also is pretty strong. And on both of these sets, pretty much you can sub out whatever moves you want. If you don't want Fake Out, if you want Protect instead, use Protect, right? Like, you don't need Fake Out. If you don't want Thunder Wave, if you'd rather have, or if you want to run, like, I don't have an Assault Vest set, right? But you could very easily change this to Assault Vest and then, replace this with whatever coverage move you wanted, right? I mean, there's so many coverage moves, like Superpower or Fire Punch, maybe. Like, you could totally do this as well. I don't even have an Assault Vest set on here where you could do that. So, you could easily drop Thunder Wave for Dark-type coverage if you wanted. Or you could drop a screen if, like, you have, like, double Intimidate and you don't care about that. Drop Reflect, dude. Like, do you. I believe in you. Yeah. This set focuses more on Special Bulk because I generally prioritize Special Bulk more than Physical. This set, you need to pair it with an Intimidate user, in my opinion. This Pokemon, well, the original set here, I have Papaberry and then Thunder Wave over Fire Punch. This is like just a solid overall team supporter. You can pair it with support Pokemon, or you can pair it with, sweeping Pokemon. You pair it with things that appreciate Thunder Wave and then appreciate Fake Out. So things that want to set up and things that want to move first, basically. Excuse me. You could also invest more speed in your Grimmsnarl if you want to outspeed Dragapult after Paralysis, but you need to put a lot in, and I didn't really want to do that personally. So this set's intended to be paired with an Intimidate Pokemon to boost its physical defense, so that way you can switch an Intimidate Pokemon or use Will-O-Wisp and then Light Screen. Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave do get in the way of each other, though, so keep that in mind. Play Rough is a solid stab move. Again, the difference in Play Rough's power versus what's it called? What's the move called? Spirit Break? Well, it's a 15 base power difference, which might not sound like a lot, but it's actually a ton, especially when you factor in stabs. So I want Play Rough personally. You could run Spirit Break if you want a lower special attack. Next up, we have Bulky, Protect, Bulk Up, Play Rough left Sucker Punch with leftovers. You could also drop this for like Mago Berry, or maybe not Mago, but like Agua Berry, for example. You could do this as well if you didn't want to run leftovers. Not sure how well this set will work. Depends a lot on the team, depends a lot on the metagame. But I do think that this has some potential. Like, just because, like, the thing is, you can immediately boost your defense before anything can hit you, which is pretty rare for a bulk up Pokemon. So that's kind of why I feel like this has some potential. But you need to pair this with something good. I'm not as confident in this set, but again, plus run Grimmsnarl with Sucker Punch is very scary. It's not something you want to deal with. This is a set I actually recommended to Hugo Hugs from Super Smash Bros. Not this exact set, but Trick Lagging Tail is a strategy that I personally think is really good. The way that, I guess I should explain fully. Oh, also, sorry, just to be totally clear, you notice how all these Pokemon have Prankster? Prankster means moves like Bulk Up, Thunder Wave, Light Screen, Reflect, and Trick all go first. So, or all have Speed Priority +1, which means that's the big advantage of Grimmsnarl's Prankster, is it's normally Prankster Pokemon are really slow, or not really slow, sorry. Normally Prankster Pokemon generally are more defensive and don't have as much offense, whereas Grimmsnarl has the offense and the support move, so what it lacks is the bulk, but you can kind of compensate for that. Anyway, Trick switches your item with the targets, and we don't have Megas and we don't have Z-moves anymore, so now you can trick anything. The way that Lagging Tail works is it says you're always going last in your priority bracket. So if you're using Grimmsnarl, Fake Out, Trick, and Sucker Punch all have priority. So unless you're using Play Rough, and you're pretty slow anyway, you don't have to worry that much about it, right? However, you can because of the way that speed is calculated now and the fact that it updates mid-turn, you could trick this onto a Choice Scarf Pokemon or onto Excadrill, right? This is a strategy that's very good for ground-type Pokemon if you're having trouble with Excadrill, because Thunder Wave doesn't affect ground types. So you can do this, trick Excadrill, and now Excadrill's at 1/2, or it's always moving last. So your Fish, for example, your Arctovish, Vishodrag, what's it called? I don't remember what it's called. Dracofish, something like that. Whatever that thing is. So that's a Pokemon that really benefits from, like, if you have Choice Band Fish and Trick Lagging Tail, you can make sure that Fish outspeeds its target 100% of the time, because there's no, well, unless they're using priority, like, you know what I'm saying, right? So that's something really cool to trick. The other thing that you could do with this that I actually just thought of while I was recording this video is you could do something like Trick Iron Ball here, right? And let's say I had Excadrill. Let's say I had Sandrush Excadrill with, like, Earthquake, whatever, Drill Run, whatever, okay? And I paired this with Grimmsnarl. I can trick Iron Ball onto Rotom Wash, right? And if I do that, now, first of all, let's say I have, like, Sandrush Excadrill, my opponent feels, the opposing Rotom Wash feels safe, and let's say there's Scarf, and Sand is not up. I can trick the Rotom, take away the Choice Scarf, and make sure it's at half speed, and then hit it with Earthquake, right? Or Drill Run. So actually, Iron Ball might be better here. Iron Ball actually might be better on the set, depending on what you want, because Iron Ball is not as good against opposing Excadrill, but yeah, depending on your team, that's another cool thing you can do with Trick. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I started looking at this thing, and, like, so many strategies just came into my head like this. I was like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And the 4 moves you choose make such a huge impact, right? So, like, it's not even, like any one of these sets. Like, this set would be very different if you took out a move into the Play Rough, right? If you threw in, like, I had so many options, right? Like, so many solid moves, right? You replace one move here. If you put Rest and Chesto Berry, this is going to play entirely different. There's so many options. Sorry, I get really excited when there's, like, so many cool things you can do with Pokemon, but yeah. Anyway, so these are just some sample sets. Again, Grimmsnarl's really complicated, and I haven't figured it out yet. There's a lot of ways it could work, I think. Anyway, my last set, because I've rambled on a little bit longer than I intended to, was Choice Band Grimmsnarl. Moves, again, personal preference, Fire Punch, Leech Life. I honestly would probably run Crunch, personally. It doesn't get knockoff. And also, Grimmsnarl does not get Well, that's weird. Huh. Must be a bug with Showdown. Anyway, Crunch. I'd probably do something like this. Superpower or Fire Punch. This set says, okay, we want an offensive Pokemon. We want our opponent to underestimate Grimmsnarl. We think that when our opponent sees Grimmsnarl in Team Preview, they will treat it as if it's a bulky support set, and this will allow us to fire off some powerful attacks. You can also bring this Grimmsnarl in late game, because it's probably a better Revenger than it is a starter, because people often lead with Intimidate Pokemon, and when your opponent's already taken some damage, it's easier for like a not as bulky Pokemon like Grimmsnarl to stick around for a longer time. Yeah, as for the moves, again, personal preference. I think you almost always want Play Rough and Sucker Punch if you have 2 attacks. Those are the first 2 I would almost always take. Again, a lot depends on team, so you can't take all this with a grain of salt, right? You should be customizing your sets regardless, right? You could also run Trick on this set. There's no reason why you couldn't do that, or if you wanted to, there's a lot of options, basically. Like, you could run a support move, but you probably shouldn't. You probably shouldn't run Fake Out on a set like this, but you could, right? I'm not going to stop you, but you probably shouldn't, so don't do that. I mean, I can't stop you, but, like, don't. Anyway, there's so many options with this thing. So Choice Band, I have a feeling, is not going to be the best set, but on the right team, or, on a Trick Room team, right? On a Trick Room team, why not? Or, like, Life Orb, you could easily replace Choice Band with Life Orb here and just say, okay, we don't need Superpower, we're going to run Fake Out. Or we're going to run Life Orb here, right? That's an option. 0 Speed Ivy, relatively slow plus Fake Out. Pair this with a Psychic type, and now Ghost type Pokemon are kind of feared. They can't even, like, use Ghost type moves first because you have Life Orb, Sucker Punch. That's not a bad strategy. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's so much going on here, and I've just scratched. Like, I think I could talk about Grimmsnarl sets for an hour and still not cover everything. And now I've gone way over what I meant to. I try to make these about 10 minutes because I know people don't like when I ramble, but I rambled anyway. I'm sorry. This Pokemon's confusing. Let's talk about what happens if Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is allowed. This guy has legs. I don't know why I clicked on that. It doesn't do anything. It just takes me back to this page. Gigantamax Grimmsnarl. You might be thinking, well, Gigantamax Pokemon aren't that good. You would be wrong. I don't know why you'd be thinking that. Nobody said anything that would imply that. So Gigantamax Grimmsnarl has two things about it. Number one, it has legs, and when I saw it for the first time, it made me uncomfortable. I don't know if that's okay, but that's the truth. Its weight is unknown. Its height is unknown. You don't care about that. I've already rambled enough. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Gmax Grimmsnarl has an attack called Gmax Snooze, and instead of lowering the special defense of the target, which is what Gmax or Max Darkness does, it gives both of the opposing Pokemon Yawn. It puts Yawn status on both of the opposing Pokemon. And I want you to know, if this Pokemon becomes VGC legal, it will shape the entire metagame. And I'm not exaggerating here. Yawn is a move that on its own I have looked at for years. I've always been trying to make Yawn work, and it's very good because it puts your opponent in a situation where they're in a lose-lose situation, especially in VGC when you only have 4 Pokemon, and Yawn hits both targets. I don't know if I can like stress enough how big of an impact this will make if it is allowed, because putting Yawn on both of your opponent's Pokemon, every team will have to have a Lumberry. Teams might run Electric Terrain or Misty Terrain manually. Galarian Weezing will shoot up in usage. This thing will, in my opinion, shape the entire metagame because its base HP is so high, and the fact that you can do damage with a powerful Dark-type attack and inflict Yawn, it's ridiculous. People could run Flame Orb just to burn themselves. Okay, I'm being a little dramatic, but like, I don't think I'm that far off. If you are in a situation where, like, it's just Dark Void. It's Dark Void that doesn't miss and does damage, and it forces you to choose because 3 turns of Grimmsnarl just using Max Darkness, that's kind of scary. People will you'd have to, like, if your opponent is, you have to have a Fairy type move on your team so you can set Misty Terrain. Like, literally, I think it would actually shape so much of the way that the rest of this year plays out because people hated Dark Void, and Dark Void was 80% accurate. You use Gmax Snooze, your opponent has 2 Pokemon left, your opponent has 3, you've KO'd 1 Pokemon. I lead Final Gambit Pokemon. I don't know if Final Gambit's still in the game. I lead Explosion Pokemon. I take one, is Explosion still in the game? I don't know. I take a trade, right? I make it 3 versus 3, I Gigantamax my Grimmsnarl, I use Gmax Snooze. You can't switch both out in the same turn. You're forced to take a sleep turn. And this isn't even talking about, you pair this thing with Fake Out Gothitelle with Shadow Tag. What? Yeah, Ghost types can switch out a Shadow Tag. Are Ghost types going to want to take Gmax Snooze? Gmax Snooze, protect. Both targets are asleep? Sorry, this is just crazy to me. This is actually crazy. Like, Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is going to be, if it is allowed, ridiculous. And there's no other word for it. It's going to be ridiculous. And I sincerely hope that you are prepared as a viewer. I hope that I've educated you on the fear you should feel, on the fear that I feel. Okay? Anyway, I've rambled on a bit. This is longer than I intended, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a bit more fear in your heart than you did when you started this video. Fear is healthy to a certain degree. I don't really think about fear that often, to be honest. I can think about it if you guys want. Anyway, this is a fun way to end the video.